Tao Yao traveled through time and became the seductive and stunning Miss Tao Si. Her fiancé A.E., in order to climb up another branch, came to her door to withdraw her marriage on the grounds that she was not dignified and virtuous enough. In front of the scumbag, Tao Yao arrogantly tore up the marriage certificate and turned around to marry the ruler of the Lu family, Jiuyuan, becoming the wife of the duke. From then on, when the scumbag saw her, he could only lower his body and call her Auntie. One day, Jiuyuan was working in his study when a servant came to report, "Lord Gua, Madam smashed someone else's restaurant." Jiuyuan paused for a moment and said calmly, "It's just a little girl. She's not sensible, compensate." "Lord Gua, Madam has beaten the head of the young master of the Shangshu family." "Are you dead?" "Servant. Is there anything else?" Jiuyuan couldn't bear it. The servant swallowed and said, "Madam, has Madam run away?" "What does it mean to run away?" Jiuyuan's calm expression finally changed. Madam said that the duke is not a man, so she shouldn't have sex with you anymore." The servant, taking the risk of falling to the ground, stuttered in response. Click. The response to the servant was that a certain man had a broken brush. When the servants reacted, Jiuyuan had already left like the wind. That night, Tao Yao experienced the feeling of calling every day not responding and calling the earth not working properly. The next day, when she came out of Jiuyuan's house with her waist supporting her, she angrily cursed. Which 8 women spread the rumors? Woo-woo, it's too cruel. Tao Yao regrets not being there. This is a very sweet story, Shuangjia, 1v1. Keywords of the novel. After getting married, my ex-uncle crazily admires me without a pop-up window. After getting married, my ex-uncle crazily admires me. Download complete text. After getting married, my ex-uncle crazily admires me. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Divorce. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Divorce. Yao Yao, the Lu family has really come to divorce. It's really too much. It's a pity that Yao Yao likes Lu Qingbai so much and even thinks about marrying him. Let's go and see what the Lu family really has to say. Hearing the indignant crusade of several cousins, Tao Yao was dragged by them to run in the direction of the front hall before he could digest the fact that he had passed through. As soon as I hid behind the screen, I heard a middle-aged man's voice say, "Although our Lu family is from a scholarly family, we have become accustomed to poverty. If we marry a daughter-in-law, we must not only be dignified and virtuous, but also be able to endure hardship. Your 4th daughter, with her natural and noble demeanor, may not be able to fulfill the role of my Lu family's daughter-in-law. Today, we are here to withdraw our marriage in hope that your 4th daughter will find another son-in-law." Saying you're not dignified enough, 3rd Miss Tao Si whispered, covering her mouth. At this moment, Tao Yao had regained his senses. Upon hearing the words, he glanced at her and did not overlook the schadenfreude in her eyes. "If you don't want to die young, just say it directly, but you have to talk about something messy." Miss Tao Tao Ling, sarcastically said. "That's right." Miss Tao Wu and Tao Lian clenched their fists, nodded in agreement, and said angrily, "I see clearly that it was Lu Qingbai who changed his mind and wanted to climb a higher branch, which is why he wanted to withdraw." Tao Yao ignored them and continued to listen attentively to the outside discussions. "Dear nephew, do you also think so?" Tao Sanyi, also known as Tao Yao's father, suppressed his anger and turned to ask Lu Qingbai, who remained silent on the side. Lu Qingbai's gaze darkened, and he lowered his head with a guilty conscience. "It's because my nephew is not worthy of Miss Fourth," he said. Tao's father's eyes flashed with anger. "Your Lu family is really deceiving others. They have been engaged for a year, and it's not appropriate to talk about it now, especially Lu Qingbai. You know that Yao Yao treated you." Lu's father said with a puzzled expression, "We also know that Miss C has always had a deep affection for Qingbai, but Miss C is indeed not suitable to be Lu's daughter. In law. If Miss C insists on being with Qin Bai, it is not impossible, but I'm afraid she can only be wronged as a concubine. Fuck your mother. Father Tao angrily rebuked. With a disdainful expression on his face, Lu Fu wiped his sleeves and said, "Why are you in a hurry to use foul language? Why don't you first ask Miss Fourth what she means?" Upon hearing these words, Father Tao's face stiffened. He knows how much his daughter likes Lu Qinbai. I heard that the Lu family is coming to divorce these past few days, and they are all feeling sad and sick. They are still lying in bed now. That silly girl might really be willing to compromise on the side room for the sake of Lu Qinbai. Thinking of this, Father Tao was so angry that his heart ached. Unfortunately, he only has one daughter like this, holding her in his palm for fear of falling, holding her in his mouth for fear of melting, unable to speak or curse. "Go and invite Miss Fourth over." Lu Fu glanced at his expression, his eyes flashing with pride, and he turned his head and ordered the servants of the Tao family. He was convinced of Tao Yao's affection for Lu Qinbai and would definitely agree to become a concubine. There was also a hint of hope in Lu Qing's white eyes. He naturally likes Tao Yao, she is so beautiful. But he prefers power over liking her. Princess Jiuyuan said that as long as he was still a princess, she agreed to let him have a side room. If Tao Yaorua is willing to be a concubine, it is naturally the best. Otherwise, he can only endure the pain and give up on her. Anyway, he's just a woman. When he gains power, why worry about not finding a more beautiful woman than Tao Yao? But now he is extremely reluctant and regretful to give up such a beautiful woman. Tao's father was very angry, but unfortunately, he was helpless. "No need, I'm here." At this moment, a soft and pleasant sound echoed behind the screen. Father Tao's gaze instantly dimmed. Sure enough, this daughter had a deep affection for Lu Qinbai. When she heard that Lu Qinbai had arrived at the mansion, she disregarded her illness and hid behind the screen. Seeing Tao Yao appear, both the father and son of the Lu family's eyes lit up. The former is confident, while the latter is full of ambition. Lu Qingbai's gaze fell on Tao Yao, full of astonishment. It is said that the fourth miss of the Tao family is naturally charming and has an extraordinary appearance, which is not exaggerated. Even though he has seen her many times, every time he sees her, he is still impressed by her appearance. Such a beauty, it's really hard for him to give up. If I had known earlier, he should have coaxed her earlier. Into bed. Lu Qinbai finally suppressed the excitement in his heart and stood up to bow. "Fourth sister." Tao Yao glanced at him. Seeing his handsome appearance and outstanding temperament, I thought to myself that no wonder the original owner was not thinking much about his tea and rice. This scumbag really looks like a dog. She sneered and suddenly rudely slapped him in the face. Lu Qinbai froze for a while before he realized it. His anger was suppressed in his eyes, and he said in a deep, incomprehensible voice, "Fourth sister. Can you also shout, 'Fourth sister'?" Tao Yao said coldly, turning his head and taking a teacup from the table. Before he could react, he stood on tiptoe and poured the hot tea from his head. Lu Qinbai was stunned on the spot, forgetting his reaction. Hot tea had already flowed from his head, instantly wetting his eyebrows, eyes, and collar. Or did Lu Fu angrily pull him apart and angrily rebuke Tao Yao? "Tao Yao, what are you doing?" Tao Yao threw the empty cup in his hand and shrugged, "What are you doing? You don't know how to look, do you?" Lu's father was so angry that he raised his hand, but his palm did not fall on Tao Yao because Tao's father blocked Tao Yao's body and stared at him with a heavy gaze. "Why, do you want to take action?" As a literati, Lu Fu's imposing demeanor instantly diminished as he looked at Tao Fu, who was tall and imposing in front of him. He said with an unpleasant expression, "Is this the cultivation of your Tao family? What, do you have any objections?" Father Tao pressed his finger bone, making a crisp sound. Lu Fu's face stiffened and he said, "You are disrespectful and refined, your Tao family is disrespectful and refined." Tao Yao looked at the tall figure blocking in front of her and chuckled, "Poochie. This cheap dad is really cute." She poked her head out from behind him and said to the father and son of the Lu family, "Listen up, it's not that you're going to divorce today. It's me, Tao Yao, who doesn't like Lu Qingbai and wants to divorce you." After saying that, she picked up the marriage certificate from the table and neatly tore it apart. Upon seeing this, Father Tao suddenly felt a sense of lifting his eyebrows and exhaling. Because he was concerned about his daughter's feelings towards Lu Qingbai earlier, he didn't dare to embarrass them too much. Now that his daughter has torn up the marriage certificate herself, he really feels a great pleasure. Sure enough, it's Tao Qian's daughter, that's great. Lu's father felt an indescribable sense of suffocation in his heart. They came to withdraw their marriage today, but he always believed that the initiative was in their hands, and with Tao Yao's affection for his son, the Tao family still had to let them knead and flatten. But the current situation is beyond his control. Fourth sister. Lu Qingbai looked at Tao Yao in a daze. "Someone, see off." Father Tao shouted loudly. In an instant, the father and son of the Lu family were awkwardly invited out by the servants of the Tao family. Before leaving, Father Lu angrily shouted, "Tao Qian, you will regret it. Apart from our Lu family, no one will want your daughter." Father Tao was so angry that he wanted to chase after him and beat him up, but he heard his daughter raise her voice and say, "Lai Fu, let go of the dog." Wang. A big brown dog suddenly broke free from its chains and rushed towards the father and son of the Lu family. Scared, the father and son of the Lu family could no longer care about their manners and ran away. "Ha ha!" Tao Yao burst out laughing. The silver bell of laughter is extremely beautiful. Tao's father is also in good health. Since his engagement with the Lu family, he has been suffocating, but unfortunately, he has to worry about his daughter and dare not attack the Lu family. Seeing the embarrassment of the Lu family father and son today, he was extremely happy. After being happy, he calmed down and looked at his daughter with a hesitant expression. "Are you really getting married to the Lu family? Isn't it possible to have fake wedding letters even if they're all torn apart?" Tao Yao asked in surprise. The new book has been opened, dear friends, please support it a lot. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Decision Making. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Decision Making. Tao's father was taken aback for a moment. After realizing it, his face showed joy and he patted his chest, promising, "Don't worry, Yao Yao. Dad will definitely find you a husband who is tens of thousands of times better than Lu Qingbai." Tao Yao blinked her eyes and nodded obediently, "I believe in Daddy." "Yao Yao, are you really not going to marry Lu Qingbai?" At this moment, Tao Shu walked over, feeling a bit confused. The scene where Tao Yao dealt with Lu Qingbai just now had a huge impact on her. "Tao Yao, this dead girl, why did she get sick all this time, just like a different person? Isn't she determined to marry Lu Qingbai? How dare she do that just now?" Thinking about it, she scrutinized Tao Yao with a scrutinizing gaze. How could Tao Yao not know what she was thinking in her heart? Moreover, she did not forget that the other party had just gloated and looked lively. She rolled her eyes impolitely and said, "Didn't you hide behind the screen and listen? You're deaf, can't you hear?" Upon hearing these words, Tao Shu's face turned red with anger. A dog biting LV Dongbin doesn't recognize good people. After saying that, she shook her handkerchief and walked away. Tao Yao breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing the situation. As for Miss Tao Er and Miss Tao Wu, they are both heartless girls. Seeing that Tao Yao doesn't want to marry Lu Qingbai anymore, they both breathed a sigh of relief. "Yao Yao, you were amazing just now. Our Tao family's girls are not unwanted, how could they be bullied like the Lu family? You did a great job." Tao Ling praised. Tao Yan, who was still relatively young, nodded and agreed, that's it. Upon seeing this, Tao Yao smiled and reached out to pinch her apple-like rosy little face. You're all right. In the past, I was blinded by lard and couldn't distinguish between good and bad. From now on, I won't do that anymore, she said firmly. She has memories of the original owner and is well aware that they really like Lu Qingbai. Therefore, in the year after their engagement, the original owner has put in a lot of effort. Although the original owner was the fourth miss of the Tao family, with a good family background and a beautiful birth, she was always weak and humble when facing Lu Qingbai. As the fiancée of the original owner, Lu Qingbai not only did not appease her and reassure her, but also enjoyed the humble flattery of the original owner. But at the moment when the original owner had been pleasing him for a year and was about to get married, he came to the door to withdraw the marriage, citing that the original owner was not dignified and virtuous enough. He spoke wildly and asked the original owner to become a side room. This is clearly because there is a better target candidate, which is why I want to force the original owner to give up his wife's position and let her retreat to become a concubine. It's simply despicable and shameless. And the original owner, who didn't even think about food and tea for him, fell ill. It's really not worth it. Father Tao, who was standing beside him, was greatly pleased to hear what Tao Yao had said. His family is young and has finally grown up and become sensible. His suspended heart was completely released. After Tao Yao returned to his room, he eagerly picked up the mirror. When she saw the person in the mirror with the same face as her own, she relaxed and was very satisfied. There is such a coincidence in this world. She not only has the same name as the original owner, but also has the same appearance. At this moment, she had fully accepted the fact of her time travel. From now on, she will be the fourth miss of the Tao family, Tao Yao. She was also lucky. Although the Taoists who came here occasionally quarreled and disagreed with each other, they were not as full of intrigues as described in the book. In summary, the Tao family is very united and protective. In addition, she withdrew from marriage without any engagement constraints, and from now on she can live freely. However, she hadn't been happy for long when the maid Sierra came in and reported, "Miss, the master invites you to go to Mingda Hall." Tao Yao was taken aback and said, "Did you say what happened?" Sierra shook her head and said, "The person who came didn't say anything." Tao Yao was puzzled. The old master is Tao Tian, the head of the Tao family and the uncle of the original owner. She dared not neglect and quickly got up to go to Mingda Hall. Unexpectedly, when she entered, her cheap father Tao Qian was also there. Seeing her come in, Tao Qian's face clearly showed something unusual. Tao Yao couldn't understand. She has already broken off her engagement with the Lu family. Why is her father still so anxious and angry, with a worried expression on his face? She suppressed her doubts and stepped forward to salute the two elders, saying, "Yao Yao has met uncle and dad." Looking at his beautiful and dignified niece and daughter, Tao Tian was quite satisfied. He raised his hand slightly and said, "Sit down, young." "Thank you very much, uncle." Tao Yao nodded and walked over to sit next to Tao Qian. After pondering for a moment, Tao Tian spoke up and said, "Yao Yao, I'm actually here to discuss something with you." Tao Yao obediently said, "Uncle, please explain." Upon seeing this, Tao Tian thought to himself that the young man Lu Qingbai was unlucky. His niece and daughter, who had a dignified and gentle temperament, were likable. That kid is so willing to withdraw from marriage, he's really blind. Tao Tian stopped his thoughts and said solemnly, "It's like this. I have received news that the fifth prince intends to request marriage from the emperor tomorrow and give you to him as his concubine." Upon hearing this, Tao Yao frowned and said, "Fifth prince." She has memories of the original owner and naturally knows the fifth prince. The fifth prince was born to the favored concubine Zhang Fei and was highly favored by the emperor. If he requested marriage from the emperor, she, who was no longer bound by the engagement, is highly likely to be granted the fifth prince as a concubine. Not to mention, she doesn't want to be someone's mistress, but the character of the fifth prince is also something she doesn't like. The fifth prince is a lecherous person who had been coveting the original owner before, but it was because of her engagement with the Lu family that she refrained from taking action against her. Moreover, in the fifth prince's mansion, there were numerous wives and concubines, and countless women were killed by him. If she goes to become a concubine for the fifth prince, then her life will be over thinking about it. She clenched the handkerchief in her hand, looked at Tao Qian, then at Tao Tian, frowned, and deliberately said with a worried expression, "I don't want to be the concubine of the fifth prince. Please think of a way for me, uncle and dad." As soon as Tao Qian saw his daughter frown, he felt a sudden pain in his heart. He wished he could draw a knife now and go and chop off the fifth prince. He dared to think of his precious daughter. Tao Tian glanced at his daughter and younger brother, and at a glance, he could see through his thoughts. If this matter cannot be resolved, his foolish younger brother may have drawn a sword and killed the fifth prince for the sake of his daughter. Thinking about it, he felt quite helpless and looked at Tao Yao with a gentle voice, saying, "We are just trying to figure out a way for you. At the moment, there is a way to avoid it. It's up to you, Yao Yao, to make your own choice." Upon hearing this, Tao Yao breathed a slight sigh of relief and said with a happy expression, "What can I do?" Tao Tian paused and looked at Tao Qian. Tao Qian let out a light cough, feeling a bit hesitant to speak. "Dad, what's the method?" Tao Yao asked curiously when she saw him like this. "Yes, it's like this." Tao Qian hesitated for a while, but didn't say a complete sentence. Remember to bookmark it, everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Marriage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Marriage. Tao Tian couldn't bear to watch anymore and spoke for him. "Yao Yao, do you still remember your Uncle Lu Jiu?" "Uncle Lu Jiu?" Tao Yao was stunned. Tao Tian nodded and said, "It's Lu Jiuyuan, the uncle of Lu Qingbai." When the three words, Lu Jiuyuan, flashed into his mind, Tao Yao couldn't help but shiver. This is the fear of Lu Jiuyuan from the depths of the original owner's memory. Lu Jiuyuan was the uncle of Lu Qingbai, and the original owner naturally had seen him before. In the original owner's memory, Lu Jiuyuan was not only profound and unpredictable, but also had a cold and solitary temperament. In addition, he came from a military background and had a killing aura that was trained from the blood of the corpse mountain. As soon as you approach, it makes you shiver in fear. Not to mention, there is a legend about Lu Jiuyuan and its function in stopping children from crying at night. It can be seen how terrifying Lu Jiuyuan is. Is there any intention behind Tao Tian suddenly mentioning this person? She was puzzled, but nodded lightly and said, "I remember." Tao Tian continued, "Then you should also know your ability as Uncle Lu Jiu. Looking at the entire Yan dynasty, only he can make the princes afraid." Upon hearing this, Tao Yao vaguely understood something in his heart, and his heart instantly lifted. What the two elders mean is sure enough. At the next moment, Tao Tian said, "If you have no objection, your father and I plan to have Uncle Lu Jiu come to the mansion to propose marriage later." Tao Yao. Perhaps she had already anticipated it in her heart, but when she really heard Tao Tian say it, she was still shocked. The way for the two elders to avoid the fifth prince is to make her marry Lu Jiuyuan. It's ridiculous. Not to mention how deep and terrifying Lu Jiuyuan is, let alone his relationship with Lu Qingbai, which is quite awkward. Moreover, she only terminated their engagement this morning and asked his uncle to propose this afternoon. Tao Yao is in a mess. This is just a temporary measure. Tao Qian thought she was scared and quickly spoke out to comfort her. Although Uncle Lu Jiu has a cold and thin personality and is not easy to get close to, he is a reliable person. With him protecting you, not to mention the fifth prince, even the emperor, there is no way to deal with him. If you don't like him, then when the time is right, Dad will pick you up again. Tao Tian frowned when he heard this, but he didn't say anything. Tao Yao had already calmed down a lot and stared at Tao Qian with burning eyes. Dad, you keep your word. Of course it counts. Tao Qian patted his chest, promising that besides, Jiuyuan would definitely not take a liking to a little girl like Yao Yao. When the timing is right, Jiuyuan will definitely take the initiative to return Yao Yao to him. Tao Qian thought naively in his heart, and his expression became even more resolute. Tao Yao knew how much his father doted on the original owner, and upon hearing this, he had no doubt. She nodded and said, "Then I get married. It's just a matter of living in a different place. As long as you don't have to jump into the fire pit of the fifth prince." Tao Tian regained his senses and immediately said, "Then I will immediately have someone notify Jiuyuan to propose marriage." Upon hearing this, Tao Yao felt very embarrassed. Although she knew it was a stopgap measure, she only divorced her nephew in the morning and got engaged to her uncle in the afternoon. Even Tao Yao, who comes from modern times, feels awkward and embarrassed. But the matter is urgent and she can't help it. Otherwise, after today, she will have to jump into the fire pit of the fifth prince. She comforted herself so much, but couldn't help but raise doubts. But would Uncle Lu Jiu be willing? A smile appeared on Tao Tian's elegant face, and he spoke confidently, "He owes me a favor. I asked him for help, and he won't refuse." Tao Yao nodded, "I see. No wonder people like Jiuyuan are willing to intervene in such matters." The news that the Tao family wanted to marry the Lu family again quickly spread throughout the capital. Before Jiuyuan arrived, Lu Qinbai went back and forth. When the servant came to report, Tao Yao didn't want to see her, but Lu Qinbai stayed in the front hall and insisted on seeing her. Thinking that Jiuyuan would be coming soon, she had to leave the yard and go to the front hall to send people away. Lu Qinbai sat anxiously on the chair, unable to believe it in his heart. He had only recently broken off his engagement with the Tao family, but later on, the Tao family was about to make an engagement with his ninth uncle. Does Tao Yao hate marriage so much? He was angry and angry. The Tao family stepped on his face and feet. Unfortunately, his ninth uncle, who was almost 30 years old and had never had a woman before, was actually preparing to propose marriage to the Tao family. Once Tao Yao marries Jiushu, isn't that his aunt? What a ridiculous thing. No, he must stop Tao Yao. Lu Qinbai was thinking angrily when he saw Tao Yao appearing by the door. He immediately lowered his face and sneered, "Tao Yao, I didn't expect you to be this kind of person." Tao Yao didn't go in, so he stood outside. Upon hearing this, he raised his eyebrows and said, "Oh, what kind of person am I?" Lu Qinbai walked out with a gloomy expression and sneered, "You just broke off with me earlier, and then you want to marry my ninth uncle. What are you thinking in your heart? How can I not understand? But you'd better die with that heart." Tao Yao listened in confusion and blinked his eyes, saying, "I don't know what's on my mind. You just want to retaliate against me and save me, but you must have heard of the truth that it's hard to turn the tide over. It's impossible between us, so it's best for you to immediately cancel your engagement plan with my ninth uncle and not waste your efforts." Lu Qinbai said coldly. "Tao Yao is extremely funny, isn't this person sick? She wants to retaliate against him and save him. Where did he get his sense of superiority? Is it difficult or is it something that the original owner has become accustomed to?" She fell silent when she thought of the previous owner's flattery towards him. "It's really possible. If you want to dream, it's better to go back and do it at night," she sarcastically said. Lu Qinbai laughed back angrily and warned, "Tao Yao, my ninth uncle is not an ordinary person. If you give up your mind now, you still have time. Otherwise, my ninth uncle will know your purpose and you won't have any good fruit to eat." Tao Yao glanced at him and said calmly, "Are you too lenient in your management? We don't have any relationship now. I'll marry whoever I love, you can't control it." Tao Yao. Lu Qingbai's forehead twitched with anger. Don't be ignorant, I'm doing this for your own good. Thank you, there's no need. Tao Yao rolled his eyes and said indifferently, Uncle Jiu is coming soon. You should leave quickly and don't get in the way here. Lu Qinbai hesitated for a moment. Looking at her again. When he came to Tao Mansion to withdraw his marriage in the morning, he found that Tao Yao was different. In the past, this woman was obedient to him and could do everything to please him. But today, her performance is completely different from before. Spitting at him and pouring hot tea on him, now looking impatient again. But how could a person become so thorough? It should be like what he said earlier. Tao Yao actually hasn't changed. She did so much just to attract his attention and save him. Yes, it must be like this. Having settled on this level, his frustration dissipated. Looking at her incredibly beautiful little face, he calmed down and said, Yao Yao, I know your feelings for me, but I hope you can understand my hard work. Although I cannot marry you as the legitimate wife, you can become a concubine first. When the time is right, I will definitely support you. Be good, cancel the engagement plan with my ninth uncle now. Tao Yao. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Lu Jiuyuan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Lu Jiuyuan, foolish. Upon realizing it, Tao Yao's red lips slowly spat out two words. Lu Qinbai was taken aback and said, What do you mean? Tao Yao blinked and said, Great idiot, I praise you. Lu Qinbai was overjoyed, thinking that his words had worked. He felt quite proud and couldn't help but take a step closer, whispering, Yao Yao, don't delay any longer. My ninth uncle will arrive in a while. My ninth uncle is a terrifying person. He kills countless people. If a little girl like you falls into his hands, it will be over. Tao Yao took a step back and was about to say something when he heard footsteps approaching from behind. Her eyes rolled and she deliberately raised her voice, saying, Uncle Lu Jiu is really that scary. But how did I hear that Uncle Lu Jiu is a very, very good person? His martial arts are unparalleled, he is extremely intelligent, and he is also a great hero who protects his family and country. It's really inappropriate for Lord Lu to slander Uncle Jiu like this. Lu Qingbai's attention was focused on her. Mainly because this girl is too good. Looking, it's difficult not to lose focus when talking to her. Upon hearing this, he sneered and opened his mouth, saying, Yao Yao, you are too naive. My ninth uncle is right to protect our country, but he eats human flesh and drinks human blood at the same time. A delicate and tender girl like you may not even have skin left in his hands. As soon as he finished speaking, he heard a deep and majestic voice ring out. Oh, have you ever seen me eat human flesh raw and drink human blood raw? Lu Qinbai froze and said, Tao Yao's eyes flickered with a smile as he turned around and said, Uncle Nine. The sound came to a sudden halt. Just because the man standing behind her was so handsome, he was so handsome that he could crack the sky. She thought she had seen countless beautiful men before, but the man in front of her refreshed her horizons. All the handsome men I had seen before were scumbags in front of him. The man was tall and upright, standing there with a majestic aura of not being angry or imposing. On her handsome face, her sword eyebrows slanted into her temples, and her phoenix eyes were deep and narrow. In the light gaze, there seemed to be a cold light passing by. Her high and straight nose bridge and stunning lip shape. He was wearing a wide black robe, with a meticulous collar that exuded a sense of abstinence. Tao Yao stared at him in a daze, forgetting to react. She thought that Lu Jiuyuan should be a very burly and rugged type, but to her surprise, he wasn't. On the contrary, he is somewhat thin, with a noble and indifferent temperament, and a charm that belongs to mature men, which is very attractive. Lu Jiuyuan lowered his gaze and looked at the girl in front of him, paused for a moment before responding in a low voice, Tao Yao regained his senses, blinked his eyes, and called out again, Uncle Nine. Is this person really Lu Jiuyuan? How is it different from what the original owner remembers? However, the original owner's memory was afraid of him, and the outline was actually very blurry. Yao Yao, hurry up and pay your respects to Uncle Jiu. At this moment, Tao Tian, standing beside him, spoke out as a reminder. Tao Yao immediately bowed and said, Yao Yao has seen Uncle Jiu. Lu Jiuyuan nodded and remained silent, his gaze fixed on Lu Qingbai. An invisible pressure suppressed Lu Qingbai, who couldn't catch his breath. His handsome face turned slightly white and he stuttered, "Ninth uncle, nephew." Lu Jiuyuan glanced at him and suddenly turned his head to look at the person behind him. I remember the Lu family ancestral hall. Isn't it necessary to renovate it? The person was taken aback, reacted, and quickly nodded, yes. Lu Jiuyuan nodded and looked at Lu Qingbai, do you know how to do it? Upon hearing these words, Lu Qingbai felt like an eggplant beaten by frost. The Lu family ancestral hall is so large, how can it be repaired by him alone? Moreover, he heard that there are ghosts in the ancestral hall but under the authority of Uncle Jiu, he dared not refute at all. He gritted his head and said, my nephew knows. We will fix our ancestral hall by engagement. Very good, let's go, Lu Jiuyuan said lightly. Yes, Lu Qingbai responded and quickly glanced at Tao Yao. He didn't dare to stay any longer and quickly left the Tao family. Tao Yao was amazed to see it. Lu Jiuyuan is so amazing. Lu Qingbai, that scumbag, dare not fart in front of him. Everyone, please come inside. At this moment, Tao Tian's polite voice sounded. Lu Jiuyuan responded and stepped into the front hall. The other members of the Lu family also followed in. The elders were discussing marriage, but Tao Yao didn't want to be present. She took Xier back to the backyard. She just sat down in the room when Tao Ling and a few others came over. Sit down, Tao Yao poured a cup of tea for the three of them and then grabbed a handful of melon seeds to nibble on. After a few people sat down, their eyes scrutinized her expression. Seeing her relaxed expression and a mood for eating melon seeds, I immediately felt incredulous. Tao Lian couldn't hold her breath and said, Fourth sister, why can you still sit still? We are discussing your marriage to Uncle Lu Jiu ahead. Tao Ling also looked at Tao Yao in surprise and hesitated, asking, don't you know? Don't you? Upon hearing this, Tao Yao smiled and said, I know. So why are you? Tao Ling and Tao Lian became even more puzzled. Tao Shu, who had not spoken yet, suddenly sneered, do you think that this way, Lu Qingbai can change his mind to you? As soon as these words were spoken, Tao Ling and the others suddenly realized. Yao Yao, you probably haven't really given up on Lu Qingbai yet, have you? Tao Ling frowned. She thought Tao Yao had already figured it out. I didn't expect her face showed disappointment. Tao Yao paused and glanced at Tao Shu. No wonder Lu Qingbai thought so, it turns out that others also view her in the same way. She shrugged and said, how could that be? You need to figure it out. It's me, Tao Yao, who doesn't like him, Lu Qingbai. It's not that he doesn't want me, and I, Tao Yao, can never turn my back on him. Upon hearing this, Tao Ling's expression softened and she said, how could you be betrothed to Uncle Lu Jiu? Yes, Uncle Lu Jiu is so terrible. Some time ago, as a little sisters, she was scared to cry. Tao Lian followed. Tao Yao looked at the curious expressions of the few people and pursed her lips. She couldn't tell them that she married Lu Jiuyuan just to avoid the fifth prince. She blinked her eyes and said, because Uncle Jiu looks good. She didn't lie about this either. Lu Jiuyuan is indeed very good. Looking. Is Uncle Jiu good? Looking. The three of them were puzzled for a moment. Tao Yao frowned and questioned the aesthetics of the three of them. Can't they see such a handsome guy as Lu Jiuyuan? Have you never seen him? She asked. I've seen him before, the three of them nodded in agreement, but every time we meet, we dare not look at him. Tao Yao. Do you know how scary Uncle Joe is? Tao Yan leaned closer and looked at her with concern. How terrifying is he? Tao Yao was curious. When the barbarians invaded, he used iron and blood methods to make the enemy never dare to invade again. Later, in order to save food, he even ordered the killing of more than 100,000 prisoners of war, more than 100,000. How can one have a ruthless heart to take action? Tao Shu suddenly spoke out. Also, I heard he has eaten human flesh raw and drank human blood raw, Tao Lian added. Tao Yao. At the beginning of the new book, we need everyone's support and maintenance. We hope everyone can give us a 5-star review, and those who have votes can vote. Thank you. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Marriage date determined. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 5 Marriage date determined. What exactly did Lu Jiuyuan do? Why do everyone say that about him? Eating human flesh raw, drinking human blood raw. Before seeing Lu Jiuyuan, she probably believed it. But after seeing Lu Jiuyuan she doesn't believe a single word. Lu Jiuyuan looks very cold, difficult to approach, and very majestic, but he is handsome. How could such a ascetic and noble handsome guy possibly eat human flesh raw and drink human blood raw? She shook her head, it was absolutely impossible. This must have been spread by someone else. But Tao Ling thought she was scared when she didn't speak. Yao Yao, there's still time to turn back now, Tao Ling held her hand and advised. That's right, Tao Lian agreed. Tao Shu looked at her silently, but the meaning was the same. Tao Yao gently but firmly shook his head and said, I haven't changed my mind. I just want to marry Uncle Lu Jiushu. Tao Ling and others were stunned. After a while, Tao Ling angrily said, why are you so stubborn? First, she had a single thought about Lu Qingbai, and now it was Lu Jiuyuan. Why is this girl wasting time with the Lu family? Tao Shu also frowned and said, don't be impulsive. Marriage is a lifelong commitment. Imagine the scene where you live with Uncle Lu after marriage, facing such a cold face all day long. Can you afford to eat? That's right, there's still time to turn back now, Tao Lian also advised. Tao Yao. To avoid further persuasion from them, she pursed her lips and said stubbornly, whatever you say, I will marry Uncle Lu Jiu. I will marry him. Tao Ling said. Looking at her determined expression, the three of them exchanged a glance and never advised her again. Forget it, this girl is stubborn and will only wake up after hitting the south wall. Tao Yao finally blocked their mouths when she saw what she had said, and finally felt relieved. She picked up the melon seeds and continued to eat. Tao Ling said. After a few people left, Tao Yao stretched lazily and went to bed to take a nap. When I woke up, it was already dark. Sierra walked in holding a box and said, Miss, you're quite awake. Tao Yao sat on the bed and yawned, what's going on? Xia approached with a happy expression on her face and said, your marriage to Duke Lu has been agreed upon. This is the engagement token that Duke Lu has sent to you. Tao Yao took it and opened it, her eyes instantly becoming straight. It's not that she's greedy, it's just the golden step in the box, it's so beautiful. The bird shape above is exquisitely and intricately crafted, very beautiful, while the bird holds a string of beads in its mouth. With a gentle movement, the beads sway endlessly, shining brightly. At a glance, one can tell that it is of great value. Tao Yao was playing with the bead with her fingers, feeling very happy. Although engagement is a temporary measure, is Lu Jiuyuan too careful? Miss, please go to Mingda Hall, Grandpa, Sierra continued. Without much thought, Tao Yao put down Jinbu and shook his head, nodding. Okay, I'll wash myself up and go over. When she came out of the yard, it was already dark. She followed Xia, who was holding a lantern, towards Mingda Hall. When she arrived, the brothers Tao Tian and Tao Qian were inside. She went forward as usual to salute the two of them. "I have met uncle and dad." "Yao Yao, sit down quickly," Tao Tian said with a gentle expression. Upon seeing this, Tao Yao blinked and smiled. "Uncle, are there any happy events?" Upon hearing this, Tao Tian gave her a meaningful glance and nodded. "At the moment, there is indeed something going on." "What kind of happy event is it?" Tao Yao asked after him, and even glanced at Tao Qian, who remained silent. Compared to Tao Tian's cheerful expression, Tao Qian's complexion was somewhat unpleasant. "Dad!" Tao Yao called out, somewhat puzzled. Tao Qian regained his composure and his gaze dodged slightly. He dared not even look at his daughter and hesitated. Ask your uncle." "Uncle." Tao Yao looked at Tao Tian with confusion. Tao Tian coughed lightly and said kindly, "It's like this, Yao Yao. Today, your marriage to your ninth uncle has been settled, but what Madame Lu means is. I hope you can enter the door as soon as possible." "Mrs. Lu." Tao Yao was surprised. Tao Tian nodded helplessly and said, "Halfway through the marriage discussion, Mrs. Lu personally came. She directly scheduled your marriage with Jiuyuan for 5 days." Tao Yao. What sensational news did she hear? Is her marriage to Lu Jiuyuan scheduled for 5 days later? This shocked her even more than when she heard today about her engagement with Lu Jiuyuan. Tao Tian frowned and explained, "We also feel that time is too rushed, but unfortunately, the old lady said that she has already prepared everything for Jiuyuan and can go through the door immediately once a suitable girl is selected." Tao Yao. "Today, Jiuyuan fell in love with you." The old lady was overjoyed and said she was afraid of long dreams at night, so she wanted to finalize her marriage as soon as possible, Tao Tian said. Tao Yao regained his senses and looked at Tao Qian. Tao Qian was extremely apologetic. He didn't expect the Lu family to be so urgent and decided to schedule the wedding 5 days later. Looking at his daughter's small face at this moment, he couldn't help but say, "If Yao Yao thinks it's not appropriate, Dad will go to the Lu family tomorrow and postpone the wedding date. If they don't want to, then we won't marry." Tao Tian. Tao Yao calmed down and held Tao Qian's hand, saying, "Forget it, Dad. Anyway, it's a temporary solution. You can marry on any day. It's also a good thing that the fifth prince can give up on me as soon as I get married." Tao Qian was taken aback. Tao Tian breathed a sigh of relief and said, "You are still young and sensible, and you understand righteousness." He then looked at his younger brother with disdain. Tao Qian reacted and frowned, saying, "Yao Yao, you don't have to force yourself, but whatever you don't want, your father's death won't make you feel wronged. You don't have to compromise like this." Tao Yao shook his head and said, "Dad is too worried, I am not unwilling. In her opinion, it's just a matter of living in a different place. When the timing is right in the future, she can still return to the Tao family." Although the 5-day period was rushed, the Tao family had already prepared a dowry for the original owner and Lu Qinbai after their engagement. Therefore, when it comes to handling marriage matters, one should not be in a hurry. However, despite this, the entire Tao family was busy preparing for Tao Yao's marriage. The original owner's mother passed away early, and they only had one daughter, Tao Yao, in their third bedroom. Therefore, Tao Yao's marriage was jointly presided over by the Li family of the first bedroom and the Chen family of the second bedroom. At this critical moment, Tao Yao received an invitation from Princess Jingguan to come into the palace to admire flowers. Tao Yao. What kind of flower is to be rewarded? It's obvious that you're restless and kind-hearted. Tao Ling frowned. Yeah, I don't know how you'll be bullied when you enter the palace, Tao Lian said anxiously. But since she's a princess, she can't shirk it, Tao Shu frowned and reminded, Princess Jingguan loves Lu Qinbai. Everyone in the capital knows that she has been quite hostile towards you before. You need to be careful when you enter the palace this time. Tao Yao's eyelids twitched as he listened, and he couldn't help but say, but I have nothing to do with Lu Qingbai anymore. She won't. Tao Shu interrupted her with a cold smile. Princess Jiuyuan is a person with small bellies and small intestines. Although you have already divorced Lu Qingbai, you have had an engagement with him before. With her, this matter has not yet passed. Tao Yao. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Tao Yao spreads rumors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Tao Yao spreads rumors. What should we do? Tao Lian became even more worried. Dad and Uncle are not here right now. It's okay, it's okay. I'm about to marry Uncle Lu Jiu. Princess Jiuyuan doesn't dare to do anything to me, no matter how much she hates me. It's okay. Tao Yao quickly calmed down. Yes, even if Princess Jiuyuan is arrogant, she will still worry about Uncle Jiu. Tao Ling thought of this and felt a little relieved. That's right, that's right. Tao Yao agreed, thinking of Lu Jiuyuan, she did feel a lot relieved. Since the fifth prince can all be wary of Lu Jiuyuan, Princess Jiuyuan will naturally also be wary. At that time, she will offer sacrifices to Lu Jiuyuan. In the worried eyes of several sisters, Tao Yao got on the carriage. At the entrance of the palace, the carriage stopped and Tao Yao got off the carriage. There were already palace attendants waiting there, picking her up and entering the palace. Miss Tao, the lotus flowers in the Taihe pool have bloomed. The princess has invited several young ladies into the palace to enjoy the flowers together. The princess is now waiting for you in the Taihe pool, the palace maid said with a smile. Thank you, Auntie. Tao Yao nodded. The palace maid smiled and didn't speak anymore, leading the way ahead. At first, Tao Yao didn't feel anything. After walking for a while and then for a while, before even reaching the Taiyi pool, she finally realized something was wrong. And upon closer inspection of the surrounding environment, it is clear that I have just walked through it. She furrowed her brow and grabbed the palace maid. Auntie, why hasn't the Tai pool arrived yet? We'll be here soon. The palace maid continued to smile. Upon seeing this, Tao Yao also smiled and said, how long is it going to be? I'm just worried about keeping the princess waiting for a long time. Just a few more steps and you'll be there. The palace maid's gaze flickered. After walking a few steps, Tai pool arrived. Tao Yao felt a chill in his heart. It is clear at a glance who instructed this palace maid. By the Taihe pool, Princess Jiuyuan and several noble women were chatting and laughing. It was very lively. Upon seeing Tao Yao's arrival, Princess Jiuyuan's smile faded and her face darkened. Tao Yao, how dare you make me wait for you here for a full 2/4 of an hour? Do you know your guilt? Tao Yao was not surprised at all. Princess Jiuyuan instructed the palace maids to take her on a detour, just to catch her and punish her openly. She calmly bowed before sighing and said, the princess invited my daughter into the palace to admire the flowers. My daughter was so happy that she wished she could put on her wings and immediately flew to the palace to see the princess. But unfortunately, this aunt seemed unfamiliar with the path of the imperial palace, so she led her courtiers 3 times before finally arriving at this Tai pond. It was not intentional to keep the princess waiting. Please forgive me. As soon as she said this, the palace maid's expression changed. It's not 3 circles, it's... Princess Jiuyuan gave her a fierce glance before she realized it. She turned pale and closed her mouth. Tao Yao raised his eyebrows slightly. Nature is not 3 laps, it is 2 laps. She deliberately said it wrong. This palace maid immediately revealed her horse feet. Princess Jiuyuan was a bit restless at this moment. She really didn't expect Tao Yao to be so calm and clearly point out the palace maid's mistake. She suppressed her anger and didn't smile. Xiaoye is an old man in the palace. How could she not be familiar with the road in the palace? Don't blame her for all the mistakes, it's clearly your own intentional lateness. The palace maid named Xiaoye had already reacted and immediately agreed. I waited for Miss Tao Si in front of the palace gate for a long time before seeing her coming slowly. I was afraid of keeping the princess waiting for a long time, so I even took a shortcut with you. Miss Tao Si, please don't mistreat me. Tao Yao listened to the two of them sing and reconcile, feeling amused in his heart, but with a bitter smile on his face, he said, I dare not wrongly accuse anyone. If the princess doesn't believe it, you can ask the soldiers guarding the palace gate. Did I enter the palace in half an hour? Believe those soldiers, they won't lie. Upon hearing this, Jiuyuan felt a bit embarrassed. The soldiers guarding the palace gate were not something she could bribe, so she naturally wouldn't listen to her and slander Tao Yao. This Tao Si is really cunning. Thinking about it, she lifted her chin and said arrogantly, I don't care about this princess. Anyway, you just don't take me seriously. I will punish you. Tao Yao, kneel down, slap me 10 times, and I will spare you. Miss Tao Si, this is your fault. How could you make the princess wait for you for so long? You really have no rules. That's right, in order to calm the princess's anger, you should hit yourself 20 times. Tao Yao, please hit yourself hard and don't make the princess wait any longer. Those noble women also joined in condemning, with an eager expression, afraid that speaking a little slower would not be remembered by Princess Jiuyuan. Tao Yao gave them a faint glance and said, to make the princess calm down, I think you should also slap yourself. The noblewomen hesitated for a moment and reacted angrily, saying, why? We didn't keep the princess waiting for so long. Just because the princess is a princess, as courtiers, you naturally have the obligation to make the princess happy, Tao Yao said calmly. Princess Jiuyuan was taken aback and her gaze swept over several noble women. The noble women felt a chill in their hearts and smiled, Princess, don't listen to Tao Yao's instigation. Don't you want the princess to be happy? Tao Yao interrupted them. Princess Jiuyuan looked displeased at several noble women. Several noble women secretly complained in their hearts. Tao Yao, this cunning bitch. Princess, we naturally want to make you happy, but don't forget the purpose of holding this flower appreciation event today, one of the quick reacting noblewomen immediately reminded. Upon hearing this, Princess Jiuyuan frowned and said displeased, do you need to remind me? The noblewoman said, Princess Jiuyuan sat down on the chair and glared fiercely at Tao Yao, do you understand what I'm saying? Tao sighed and said, it's not that I don't understand, but in 2 more days, I will marry Duke Lu. If these 10 words go down, they will definitely leave marks on my face. What would Duke Lu feel when he lifted my veil and saw that my face was covered in palm prints? He will definitely feel that the princess is hitting him in the face. When he gets angry. She paused and whispered, has the princess heard of any rumors about Duke Lu? It is said that he can eat human flesh raw and drink human blood raw. Can a girl with delicate skin and tender flesh like the princess still have good luck in his hands? Princess Jiuyuan trembled with intelligence upon hearing this, feeling a chill rising from her body in the blue and white sky. She had also heard this rumor and was once afraid to come. When she saw Lu Jiuyuan, she would take a detour. Did he really eat human flesh raw, drink human blood raw? She remained calm, but her stuttering voice revealed her fear. Tao Yao nodded and said without conscience, actually. I really saw it. If it weren't for this, I wouldn't want to marry him. He's too scary. As she spoke, her body trembled and she looked extremely scared. I wish you all a happy Yuan Shao, filled round balls made of glutinous rice. Flour for Lantern Festival, happy and safe. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Lu Jiuyuan overhears Tao Yao spreading rumors about him. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Lu Jiuyuan overhears Tao Yao spreading rumors about him. Princess Jiuyuan shrank her shoulders, showing some sympathy towards her. The other noblewomen huddled together in fear. I also think for the sake of the princess. The princess is so beautiful, such a fair and tender person. If she were to be eaten by him. I really can't bear it. Tao Yao said sincerely. She had no idea how hard it was for the figures standing behind the nearby flower tree to endure laughter and endure after listening to what she said. The emperor turned his head to look at Jiuyuan standing beside him and said with a smile on his lips, "Your fiancé is really interesting. You say you can eat people." Jiuyuan's already cold handsome face turned even colder at this moment. His black eyes narrowed slightly and he looked towards the little girl not far away who was trying to spread rumors about him. Others couldn't help but laugh. Who would have known that the emperor had a sudden idea and asked them to come together to the imperial garden to admire flowers, and they would encounter such an interesting thing. For a moment, everyone's gaze towards Jiuyuan was intriguing. One of the officials playfully said, "Miss Tao Si really agreed to marry you because she saw you eating human flesh and was afraid of you." Jiuyuan. The emperor was afraid of laughing out loud, so he quickly led his people away. Princess Jiuyuan was frightened by Tao Yao's words and stood up abruptly, pointing at her and saying, "Then, don't beat your mouth." "Thank you very much, princess." Tao Yao looked grateful. "But looking at your face, I'm still unhappy," Princess Jiuyuan frowned. Tao Yao paused and glanced at the noblewomen. "The princess is not happy. They have an obligation to make you happy, and they don't need to get married in the short term. The princess can slap them hard, and they will be very happy." Those noble women said. Princess Jiuyuan felt it was very reasonable and turned her head to stare at them, saying, "Aren't you still applauding? Do you want me to do it myself?" The noble women trembled and knelt down with a thump. "Princess, please spare us. Although we don't need to get married, slapping our faces will leave a mark. It's not easy for us to meet people." "Then there's no need to meet people. You can stay at home and wait for your face to recover before going out to meet people," Tao Yao suggested on the side. Princess Jiuyuan nodded and said, "Yes, then there's no need to go out and meet people for now." Those noble women said. Not long after, the sound of slapping echoed one after another by the Tay pond, mixed with Tao Yao's pleasant voice. "Princess, look at the lotus over there. It's so beautiful, in bud, standing tall and graceful. It looks like a girl, isn't it?" "Like a girl?" Princess Jiuyuan was taken aback. Tao Yao nodded and said, "It's like a beautiful girl like a princess." Princess Jiuyuan was overjoyed upon hearing this and touched her face. "Like this princess?" "Yes, in the world, besides a princess, who else has the qualification to be as noble and pure as a lotus flower?" Tao Yao said without a clear conscience. "High moral character." Princess Jiuyuan was puzzled. "Isn't it just a lotus flower? Does it still have moral character?" Tao Yao shook his head and began to talk nonsense seriously. "Although lotus is just a flower, it grows in mud and is not polluted. It is washed with clean water and is not seductive. Isn't it precisely because of its noble character? And the princess, who is known for her golden branches, jade leaves, and heavenly pride, is so kind to others, not because of her noble character. I think princesses are very similar to lotus flowers." Princess Jiuyuan looked at her in shock and said, "Do you really think of me that way?" "Of course," Tao Yao nodded with a sincere expression. Princess Jiuyuan curled her lips and said, "You have a good eye." Tao Yao smiled silently. But, Princess Jiuyuan suddenly stiffened her face and spoke in a cold voice, "I warn you, Lu Qingbai is mine. Don't think that when you enter the Duke of Lu's mansion, you will think that the nearby water tower will win the moon first. If I know you dare to seduce Lu Qingbai, I will kill you." Tao Yao. Can she say that scumbag? She doesn't even want to give her a sticker instead. But considering the previous actions of the original owner, no one would believe her words when she said them. She could only helplessly say, the princess is too worried. Since all the courtiers are going to marry Duke Lu, they will naturally abide by their duties and treat Duke Lu wholeheartedly. Duke Lu is my future husband and the person I will live my life together. Upon hearing this, Jiuyuan stared at her face and said, "Are you really thinking that? Are you not lying to me?" "My daughter has no empty words, Princess Mingjian," Tao Yao said solemnly. "But only she knows, half true and half false. It is her heartfelt words that she will no longer entangle with Lu Qingbai. As for living a life together with Lu Jiuyuan, it is false. She didn't think so. They don't have Lu Jiuyuan either." Princess Jiuyuan snorted, "Even you dare not deceive me." "I dare not," Tao Yao hurriedly said. "All right, I'm not someone with a small belly and chicken intestines either. Since you promise not to pester Lu Qingbai again, I'll also give you a big wedding gift," said Princess Jiuyuan. Tao Yao thought to himself, "You are really just a chicken belly." However, upon hearing about the gift, she immediately smiled and said, "Thank you very much, Princess." "What do you like?" Princess Jiuyuan asked. Tao Yao smiled and said, "My daughter is just a commoner, with no other interests, only interested in gold and silver." Jiuyuan sneered, "It's really tacky." Tao Yao sweated and said, "I made the princess laugh. My servant is really vulgar, not like a princess with first-class taste." Upon hearing these words, Jiuyuan suddenly felt that the other party was vulgar. Especially her appearance, which was so seductive that she looked tacky. "Xiaoya, bring the box of gold jewelry that the Internal Affairs Office bought last month and give it to Tao Si," Jiuyuan said with disdain. "Yes." Xiaoya immediately went to pick it up. Tao Yao's heart almost jumped out. The gold jewelry crafted by the Ministry of Internal Affairs for the princess is definitely pure gold and exquisite and valuable. Is it possible that the first bucket of gold she earned after traveling through ancient times is about to be born? "Thank you, Princess." Tao Yao suppressed his excitement and said sincerely. "That box of gold jewelry, you have to wear it every day," Jiuyuan cautioned, but in her heart, she thought that this would make Tao Yao even more tacky. "My daughter will definitely do it," Tao Yao promised. "Not to mention wearing it every day, even if she doesn't take it off at night, she's willing to do it." Not long after, Xiaoya took the box of gold jewelry and gave it to Tao Yao. Tao Yao restrained his excitement and took it over, immediately startled by the heavy box. Jiuyuan impatiently saw her and waved her hand, saying, "You can leave now." "That servant girl is leaving," Tao Yao saluted. As she left, she looked at those noble women with swollen faces like pigs, and she smiled brightly and happily. Those noble women are about to vomit blood in anger. Why were they beaten? And Tao Yao, who should have been beaten, not only did not get punished, but also received a box of gold jewelry. That's gold jewelry, it's still Princess Jiuyuan's, it shows how valuable that gold jewelry is. Several noble women twisted their faces in anger. Tao Yao leisurely left the palace. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Lu Jiuyuan says he doesn't eat human meat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Lu Jiuyuan says he doesn't eat human meat. What Tao Yao didn't know was that two tall figures stood behind the flower tree not far away. One of them is cold and majestic, with a handsome and noble appearance, while the other has a refined and elegant temperament. But it was precisely Lu Jiuyuan, who had gone back and forth, as well as his colleagues and friends. Looking at the girl walking away, the colleague couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Miss Tao Si is too clever, isn't she?" But no one has ever been able to win favor from Princess Jiuyuan. Miss Tao Si lifted the crisis in just a few words, and even managed to trick Princess Jiuyuan into a box of jewelry. What a clever move. Upon hearing this, Lu Jiuyuan glanced at his friend and corrected his voice with a faint tone. She wasn't lying, it was Princess Jiuyuan who wanted to give it herself. "That's why I said it's high," the man ahead said with a smile, glanced at Lu Jiuyuan, and suddenly joked, this person hasn't even passed through the door yet, so he's protecting him. I'm just stating the facts. Lu Jiuyuan frowned slightly. What a statement of fact. The man curled his lips. If the other person is not your fiancé, would you still hold me here and watch for half a day? Lu Jiuyuan paused for a moment and said calmly, didn't you insist on staying? The man choked and said resentfully, I'm not curious about what kind of girl she is. Can she make us famous, not close to women, and have never had a woman before? Seeing it today did not disappoint me. Miss Tao Si is indeed interesting. You found a treasure. Lu Jiuyuan ignored him and walked straight towards the palace gate. Hey, wait for me. The man saw this and quickly followed up. What came to his mind, he joked, you're in such a hurry to leave the palace. Shouldn't you still want to have a chance encounter with Miss Tao Si? Why don't you just write a script after thinking so much? Lu Jiuyuan said coldly. The man shut his mouth. At this moment, Tao Yao left the palace gate and was about to walk towards his carriage when he saw a man anxiously walking back and forth in front of the carriage. She paused in her footsteps and exclaimed in surprise, Big brother. When the man heard the sound, he immediately turned his head and saw her with a smile on his face. However, soon after, Jun's face stiffened again and he quickly stepped forward, asking in a hurry, Yao Yao, are you okay? Have you been in trouble? Tao Yao's heart warmed slightly as she shook her head and said, I have nothing to do. By the way, how did you come? The man breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, lingling, I'm afraid you might have an accident, so someone went to the yamen to notify me. The man in front of me is the eldest son of the Tao family, Tao Jingyan. I am currently working as a clerk in the Ministry of Justice. Tao Yao also smiled and said, they are too worried. Actually, there's nothing wrong. Princess Jingguan is very kind and easy to talk to. Look, she even gave me a box of gold jewelry. After speaking, she also patted the box in her arms. Tao Jingyan thought he heard it wrong, or maybe Tao Yao was stimulated by something. He raised his hand to probe Tao Yao's forehead and worried, are you okay? Tao Yao twitched at the corner of his mouth and grabbed his hand. Of course not, what I said is true. If you don't believe me, take a look at what this is. As she spoke, she opened the lid of the box. The golden light flickered inside, almost blinding Tao Jingyan's eyes. He looked at her in shock and said, you. How did you do it? With the temperament of Princess Jingguan, she specially invited Yao Yao into the palace without any difficulties. It was already strange enough that she was even given jewelry. Is it difficult? Princess Jingguan has changed her personality. Tao Yao was also startled by the gold ornaments in the box. It's really gold jewelry. Each one is made of pure gold, and the style is also very beautiful and exquisite. Princess Jingguan. She is really beautiful and has a lot of money. I really gave her a box of gold jewelry. She really made a lot of money. Thinking about it, she slammed the lid back and tightly held the box in her arms, urging, Big brother, let's go back quickly. Tao Jingyan regained his senses and was about to nod when he heard a voice behind him, Master Tao, Miss Tao forth. The two of them turned their heads and saw the palace gate open, and two tall men walked out from inside. The one walking ahead, higher and more imposing, with handsome features, as if carved, was exactly Lu Jiuyuan. But those who spoke were officials following behind him. Jingyan has met Jiushu and Gu Shangshu. Tao Jingyan was the first to come to his senses and salute the two of them. Tao Yao was stunned for a moment, then followed suit and bowed. Yao Yao has seen Uncle Jiu, has seen. She glanced at the man standing next to Lu Jiuyuan, not knowing him, then hesitated for a moment and called out, Gu Shangshu. No need to be polite, Lu Jiuyuan said calmly. Yes, everyone is our own, so there's no need to be seen outside. Gu Changqing also smiled and looked at Tao Yao, speaking of which, you will soon be the wife of Jiuyuan. I have to call you, sister. In law. Tao Yao. Lu Jiuyuan gave Gu Chongqing a faint glance and said, "Why are you talking so much today?" "I have no choice, I'm glad to see my sister. In law, Gu Chongqing said with great reluctance. Tao Yao. Tao Jingyan. Lu Jiuyuan's gaze fell on Tao Yao, his tone unconsciously gentle. "Don't pay attention to his words." "Oh," Tao Yao nodded. Hello, what does it mean to ignore what I say? Did I say it wrong?" Gu Chongqing said discontentedly. Lu Jiuyuan looked at him and warned, "Your words are too abrupt. Don't scare them." Upon hearing this, Gu Chongqing immediately shut his mouth, but when he looked at Tao Yao, he frowned and said, "Little girl, did you hear me? Your ninth uncle is worried about you." Tao Yao. Tao Jingyan. Lu Jiuyuan furrowed his brows and unconsciously exuded a sense of pressure from his body. He said in a deep voice, "If you talk too much, you know the consequences." Gu Chongqing suddenly withdrew his smile and became serious. Tao Yao. Tao Jingyan. "If Uncle Jiu has nothing else to do, let's go back first," Tao Jingyan said politely as he regained his senses. Lu Jiuyuan nodded. Tao Yao bowed to him and followed behind Tao Jingyan. Lu Jiuyuan was originally going to leave, but suddenly remembered something. He frowned and said in a voice, "Wait a moment." Upon hearing this, the Tao siblings immediately turned their heads and looked puzzled, saying, "Uncle Jiu, do you still have any orders?" Lu Jiuyuan paused for a moment, looked at Tao Yao, and suddenly spoke, "I have never eaten human flesh." The Tao siblings were taken aback. When they reacted, they had already boarded the carriage and left. What does this sentence explained by Uncle Lu mean? Tao Jingyan turned his head to look at Tao Yao in confusion. At this moment, Tao Yao had already thought of something, with a guilty expression on her face. Upon hearing this, she dodged her gaze and said, I'm not sure." Oh my goodness, did what she said by the Tay pool happen to be heard by Lu Jiuyuan? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Death of Tao Yao Society. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Death of Tao Yao Society. Only in this way can we explain why he suddenly explained that sentence, but as soon as she thought of her fabricated words by the Tay pond being heard by Lord Lu Jiuyuan, she wanted to find a ground crack to drill. At the edge of the Taiha pool, she not only spread rumors about him, but also said that she would wholeheartedly treat Lu Jiuyuan and live a lifetime with him. I hope he suddenly lost his hearing and didn't hear what she said. "What's wrong with you? Why is your face so red?" Tao Jingyan said strangely when he saw her blushing little face. Tao Yao opened his mouth, unable to speak. She was still in front of Tao Ling and the others, swearing confidently that Lu Jiuyuan was not that kind of person. However, when she turned around, she spread rumors in front of Jingguan and several noble women that he was that kind of person. The key is that I even heard it myself. Tao Yao. Tai Shi is dead. I know now. Tao Jingyan patted her shoulder and suddenly said. Tao Yao restrained himself and wondered, "What do you know? You must have heard the rumor of Uncle Lu Jiu before, right? What kind of ferocious spirit, cold-faced Yen Luo, can stop children from crying at night? Aren't you going to marry him soon? He's trying to comfort you and make you not afraid of him because of this." Tao Jingyan spoke confidently. Tao Yao. Tao Jingyan is even better at spreading nonsense than her. As soon as they returned to the Tao family, Tao Ling and a few others gathered around them. "How about Yao Yao? Are you okay? You haven't been bullied, have you? No injuries, right? What grievances have you suffered? You must speak up." Looking at the anxious and concerned look of the Tang sisters, Tao Yao felt warm. She blinked and said, No, I'm fine. Let's go into my room and keep an eye on things for you. Tao Ling and the others were taken aback and said, it's okay. Princess Jingwen didn't bully you. No, Princess Jingwen is great, Tao Yao said sincerely. At first, Princess Jingwen wanted to trouble her, but she still felt disgusted and annoyed. But Princess Jingwen later gave her so much gold, she was really grateful and didn't have time. That bit of grievance is not even considered grievance. Just like Tao Jingyan's reaction when he heard Tao Yao's words outside the palace gate, the three of Tao Ling were also stunned, thinking they had heard something absurd. How is Princess Jingwen doing? The three of them looked at Tao Yao anxiously and said, are you okay? Tao Yao rolled his eyes and said, I'm doing great. Tao Ling and the others looked at Tao Jingyan for help, is Yao Yao really okay? Tao Jingyan chuckled lightly and said, this girl is really capable. She's really okay. Come on, let me show you what Princess Jingwen sent me. Tao Yao excitedly pulled the three sisters to her yard. As soon as she entered the room, Tao Yao opened the box, took out the gold ornaments inside, and placed them on the table. This is Jean Buyao, this is Jean earrings, this is Jean bracelet, this is Jean collar. Tao Yao spoke the names of those gold ornaments like a treasure trove. Tao Ling, three of them, were stunned. After a while, the three finally came to their senses. These are all gifts from Princess Jingwen. Tao Ling hesitated, feeling very unreal. That's right. Tao Yao nodded, picked up a gold bracelet from it, and put it into her wrist. She found gold jewelry tacky and thought it matched me well, so she gave it to me all at once. 3 Tao Ling people. After a while, Tao Shu frowned and said, she's really insulting. She used these things to mock you. I said she didn't make things difficult for you. She was waiting for you here, said Tao Ling displeased. Tao Lian clenched her fists and said, it's really too much. Tao Yao. Her mouth twitched, could she say that she didn't mind Princess Jingwen using gold and silver to mock and insult her? Why are your eyelids so shallow? How can you accept these things? Tao Shu scolded. Tao Yao. Is it because her eyelids are shallow? She still thinks they are too naive. This is real gold. She wants it for her, why doesn't she want it? She's not lame in the head. What other unpleasant words did Princess Jingwen say to you? Is there a threat to you? Tao Ling asked anxiously. Tao Yao regained his senses, nodded, and said with a heavy expression, yes. Tao Shu patted the table and said, I knew she was not well-intentioned. What did she threaten you? Tao Lian nervously asked. Tao Yao paused for a moment and spoke Princess Jingwen's original words. Warning me, don't think that by marrying into the Duke of Lu, you can get close to the water and the moon first. If I dare to seduce Lu Qingbai, she will chop me off. Tao Ling and the others took a cold breath and said, she's really vicious. Tao Yao nodded and said, yes, it's too vicious. Tao Ling frowned and couldn't help but advise, but Yao Yao, after you marry Uncle Lu Jiu, you must take good care of yourself, abide by the laws of women, and never do anything that would insult the reputation of our Tao family. Tao Yao. Yeah, then Lu Qingbai, stop thinking about it and be your duke's wife, Tao Shu agreed. That's right, Princess Jingwen is used to being wild and capricious. She can really do it. Don't be chopped, Tao Lian said. Tao Yao. Looking at the three sisters, she looked worried. She felt weak. Seeing that the three of them were still talking big, she deliberately yawned and said, I'm a bit tired. Let me rest for a while, you guys go back first. Upon seeing this, Tao Ling and the others had no choice but to stop talking and nod, then you can take a nap. Later, we will come back to talk to you. Tao Yao. Finally seeing off the three, Tao Yao turned around and closed the door, happily playing with the gold ornaments on the table. She originally intended to distribute it to Tao Ling and the 3 others. But the 3 of them obviously had the same idea as Princess Jiuyuan, thinking that the gold jewelry was too tacky, and then they despised it. That being the case, she didn't bother herself anymore. After playing with it for a while, she put away the gold jewelry and lay down on the bed, sleeping soundly. In the evening, Tao Qian received news and came to Tao Yao's yard. As soon as he entered the room, he held on to Tao Yao's shoulder and examined her up and down. He asked in a deep voice, "Yao Yao, listen to Lingling and the others say, Princess Jiuyuan has summoned you into the palace. Are you okay?" Tao Yao shook her head with a smile and said, "It's okay. I even met Uncle Lu Jiu." Upon hearing that she had met Lu Jiuyuan, Tao Qian thought it was Lu Jiuyuan who had helped her. He breathed a sigh of relief and said, "It's okay, it's okay." Tao Yao saw that he was dusty and had only just returned to the mansion, so he came to her yard to see her. His heart suddenly softened, and he took his arm and said, "Daddy, it's evening. Let's have dinner together." "Okay," Tao Qian readily agreed. Tao Yao immediately had someone prepare a table of dishes, scald a pot of wine, and then the father and daughter sat opposite each other for a meal and some wine. She just didn't expect that Tao Qian's tolerance for alcohol was so bad. After 2 glasses of wine, he got drunk. He propped his head up and looked at Tao Yao drunkenly, whispering, "Ronger." Tao Yao. She knew that Ronger was the name of the original mother, and her full name was Shen Rongrong. But it has been many years since I passed away. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Getting Married. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Getting Married. From Tao Qian's appearance now, it is clear that he recognized her as Shen Rongrong. She felt inexplicably sad in her heart and unconsciously lowered her voice, "Dad, you're drunk." "I'm Yao Yao, not my mother." Tao Qian was stunned for a moment, then turned his head and looked at the night sky. "The moon tonight is really round." Tao Yao. She turned her head to look at the night sky. Where did the moon come from? After a moment, Tao Qian turned his head and held Tao Yao's hand, saying, "In 2 more days, you will get married." "Dad. I really can't bear to part with you." Tao Yao smiled and comforted, "It's okay. Even if I'm married, I will often come back to visit my dad." Tao Qian nodded and said drunkenly, "You're right, it's not far from here. But Yao Yao, if Lu Jiuyuan dares to bully you, you must tell Dad. Dad will definitely teach him a lesson. I am not afraid of his fierce and evil spirit." The title of "Cold-Faced Yen Luo" will still make him look for teeth everywhere. Tao Yao. She wants to say, "Don't you always get too involved in the show." Her marriage to Lu Jiuyuan was a temporary measure, and it should not be true. Why did Lu Jiuyuan bully her? And can her father beat Lu Jiuyuan? She is very suspicious. But it didn't make sense to someone who was drunk, so she had to agree and say, "I understand." After sending Tao Qian back to sleep, Tao Yao returned, and as soon as she entered the room, she saw 3 of Tao Ling lying on her embroidered bed, crooked and twisted. Tao Yao. I didn't say enough during the day, came to find her at night to continue talking. She twitched at the corner of her mouth and walked forward. "Why did you come over? Aren't you getting married soon?" "Come and chat with you," Tao Ling said with a smile. Tao Shu looked at Tao Yao standing in front of the bed and couldn't help but feel a little emotional. "I didn't expect that in our generation of Tao family, you were the earliest to get married. 4th sister, I can't bear to part with you." Tao Lian suddenly sat up and hugged Tao Yao, speaking softly. Tao Yao was stunned for a moment, then hugged her back and let go of her. With a light expression on his face, he said, "I'm getting married, not living or dying. We can still play together often." "Pooh, on a great day, you can't say the word death," Tao Ling quickly stopped. Tao Yao laughed and said, I'm just talking. Tao Ling said seriously, it's not possible to talk. Tao Yao. Fourth sister, this is the wedding gift I prepared for you. I will give it to you in advance now. Tao Lien suddenly mysteriously took out a box and handed it to her. Tao Yao's eyes lit up and he reached out to take it. He asked, what is it? His hand quickly opened the box. When she saw the little mouse in the box, she almost threw it away. How about it, isn't it very cute? Tao Lien reached out and touched the little mouse in the box. This one, but I put in a lot of effort to raise it. You're about to get married, so I'll give it to you. Tao Yao. She shook her hands and raised her voice, saying, Tao Lien, I'm getting married. Can you give me a mouse? Tao Lien frowned and said, I actually want to give you two as gifts, but the problem is that this little thing is not easy to raise. It's still something I've struggled with. But are you going to get married? I can only endure the pain and give it to you. With its company, you won't be lonely in the government office in the future. Tao Yao. Yao Yao, Liener is also full of heart, you don't have to refuse, Tao Ling said. Yeah, although the little mouse is very cute, are you her fourth sister? Take it quickly, Tao Shu also followed. Tao Yao. Can she say that she doesn't care about this little mouse at all? She doesn't have the energy or interest to take care of it. Can you give her some real gifts? Fortunately, the things that Tao Ling and Tao Shu will give next are relatively reliable. For example, Tao Ling was skilled in needlework and embroidered a pair of pillowcases with mandarin ducks playing in the water for her. Although she probably doesn't know how to use it, Tao Ling's embroidery skills are good, and the things she embroiders look pleasing to the eye. And Tao Shu gave her a peace token. I went to the temple a few days ago and specifically asked for it for you. I hope everything will go smoothly and be safe after you get married, Tao Shu said sincerely. Tao Yao was momentarily moved. Although Tao Shu, the three cousins in the original owner's memory, would bully her most, it was just an ordinary skirmish. Thank you. She opened her hands and hugged the three of them. Originally, she was very indifferent to this marriage, but due to the blessings of the three, she had an additional feeling of impending marriage. That night, the four sisters lay in bed and talked all night. In the blink of an eye, it was the eve of the wedding. Considering that she had to wake up early tomorrow, Tao Yao went to bed early. As she was preparing to go to bed, suddenly, Li walked in holding a box. Yao Yao, are you ready to sleep? Li asked with a smile. Auntie. Tao Yao was surprised to see this. She quickly sat up and was about to get out of bed to pay her respects, but was stopped by Li Shi. She said softly, Don't get up. I came here to give you a few words. Tao Yao paused and obediently said, Auntie, please speak up. Li reached out and touched her soft long hair draped behind her back, sighing, in the blink of an eye, we have all grown into big girls. Tao Yao said with sincere gratitude, Yao Yao has always been stubborn. Thank you very much to Aunt for her tolerance towards Yao Yao. The mother of the original owner passed away early. Although Tao's father doted on the original owner, from childhood to adulthood, he could be considered as the Li family of the big house and the Chen family of the second house. They watched her grow up together and showed great care for her. Upon hearing this, Li put a handkerchief around the corner of her eye and smiled, saying, Yao Yao has really grown up and become more sensible. Your mother must be pleased. By the way, take a look at what's inside this box. If you don't understand, just ask me. Tao Yao only then noticed what she was holding in her hand. She took it in confusion. After opening it, I saw that there was actually a palm-sized book inside, but there was no writing on the book cover. I immediately felt curious, what is this? She took it out. Li paused for a moment and whispered, open it up and take a look. Tao Yao opened the pages of the book according to his words. The next moment, she froze, her mouth twitching and her face blushing slightly. This is actually a book with colors. She suddenly understood that this was the book for the girl who was about to leave the cabinet to enlighten her. She blinked her eyes and looked at Li Shi, stuttering, "Auntie, this." "Sure enough," Li said earnestly, "silly girl, you are going to marry Duke Lu tomorrow. This is for your enlightenment, so you don't have to be shy. Knowing what the situation is will be good for you." Tao Yao regained his senses, looked shy, nodded, and said, "Yao Yao. I understand." In fact, she wanted to say that her marriage to Lu Jiuyuan was just a temporary measure, and there was no need to learn these things because they were impossible to use. Seeing her like this, Li smiled and touched her head before getting up and saying, "Then you should rest early and I'll come back tomorrow morning." Tao Yao nodded obediently and said, "Okay." As soon as Li left, Tao Yao closed the door and her shyness disappeared without a trace. She lay on the bed and flipped through the little book. Finally, it can be concluded that this little book is still too conservative. What she saw in modern times is simply a small comparison to a big one. She collected her books and yawned. End of this chapter.